The Buffalo Bills play their final preseason game tomorrow versus the Chicago Bears. And I want to go back to last preseason game a little bit again. Sean McDermott wore these sunglasses in the first half of the game. And coincidentally or not coincidentally, they were rose-colored. He threw away those sunglasses at halftime because the Bills had 12 penalties and did not look like they were ready to play football. Steve Tasker said this week that the team looked disinterested to be playing in these games. Like they just wanted to get on to the regular season already. Well, to me, these games are like practice. Yeah, they don't mean anything when the record comes around later on, but they mean stuff to get ready for the season. So are we going to use these practices like Allen Iverson used to say? How are we going to make practice? We're talking about practice, not a game. We're talking about practice. How are we going to use these games to make our teammates better? Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Use these preseason games, use these practices to make our team better and make sure we're ready for the regular season. So the Bills had 12 penalties in the first half last week. 12 penalties. And after McDermott threw those sunglasses away at halftime and stopped looking through those rose-colored things, they only had one penalty in the second half. The team played much better in the second half of that game than they did in the first half. Well, I'm going to say it's time to just chuck those rose-colored glasses and make sure we're ready to play some football, because I don't want to be here in a couple of weeks telling you, you know what, it's early in the season, just one or two losses, so we're still okay, whatever. You know what? Now's the time to make sure we're ready. Not in a couple of weeks, after we've already played a couple of games. The regular season's here. No more off-season partying. No more doing all these commercials. Whatever. Take those rose-colored glasses that we've been looking through our team at and throw them away. Because there's some things that need to be fixed. Every team has some things that need to be fixed. But now's the time to do it, not be disinterested in a preseason game. So what are we looking for in this game? Those penalties I just discussed have to be stopped. That's the number one thing. Stop these penalties. 12 penalties in a half? Come on, guys. And a lot of them were pre-snap. I mean, it wasn't a penalty, but the first play, again, we didn't even have enough guys on the field. Be ready. It's time to get ready. It's time to be ready. Let's play some football. O-line play is something we've got to look for. Yes, our tackles did not look great in the last game. Dion even came out and said, no excuses if this was a preseason game. I know a lot of fans are down on Spencer Brown. He needs to step up and have a better game. Connor McGovern got hurt this week, of all things, and I thought he had a good game last week. So, the offensive line play is very, very important to look at this game. Almost more important than whether Josh completes a pass, does he have the time and the pocket to complete that pass? And does the offensive line cause holes in the running game that our running backs can run through? I can't tell you how important it is to have a good offensive line in the NFL. And that's my number one thing to look for this week. After the penalties. The next thing would be Damian Harris, just because I haven't seen him play in a game yet. He's been injured through the first two preseason games. He's supposed to be our running back number 2. I'd just like to see him carry the ball a little bit, and hopefully that offensive line can give him those holes so that he can show us that he's ready to play after just one preseason game for him. Middle linebacker play. Been screaming this the whole offseason. Who is our middle linebacker? Is it Dotson? Is it Benford? Is it Williams? Is it Klein? I don't know. And we haven't brought in anybody else. I mean, well, I guess we just brought in some guy from Oklahoma that played college football in Oklahoma to see if he could play middle linebacker, but he wasn't drafted, so I don't know much about why we would think he'd be the answer. But hopefully it gives us some depth there. But one of these guys got to step up right now. There's no more time to wait. This is the last preseason game. Who's wearing that green dot means a lot to this team. And it seems like we're not willing to make anybody else wear that green dot but the middle linebacker. That guy calls the plays. He's telling everybody where to go. It's an important position. And I've heard a lot of fans say this week that, middle linebacker is not really that very important of a position when you have a good D-line and if you have good defensive. No. Pooey. Middle linebacker is a big position in the NFL. And, it scares me that we're not even sure who the starter is yet. And we play our last preseason game tomorrow. And then the last thing to look at is who is getting that last wide receiver spot. And this is actually a bright point because every wide receiver has had himself look good this year. I mean, Pittman, Shavers, Aitman is what I meant. Shavers, Shakir, obviously Davis and Diggs, Andy Isabella. The list goes on and on this offense on wide receivers. And I know I haven't even mentioned a couple, but that's because there's so many good. So this is actually a good thing to look for as someone that is a really talented wide receiver on the Bills roster is not going to make the team. So they're going to have to fight here in this last game to see who that might be. Shorter. There's another one. Got to make sure that he makes the roster. He was just picked this year. I hope he does. But I hope they all could make the roster, but somebody's got to get cut. We can't have 10 wide receivers out there. You only have 6 or maybe 7. So who makes the team? It will be nice to see Edmonds again, how he's doing with the Bears. That guy's a great middle linebacker. I saw a meme this week. You miss me yet? Yeah, I think we do. We miss you already. I think I missed you the day that you decided to sign with Chicago. Anyway, I went on a little bit of a rant there. But you know what? If we didn't have a good team, I wouldn't go on a rant. There's a lot of really good things to look for with this team and look forward to a great season. But I'm glad those rose-colored glasses got thrown away, and I hope they don't get put back on. Because it's time to play football for real, and everybody better be ready. Everybody from the top down. And show us that versus the Chicago Bears. I know it's just a preseason game, but show us we're ready. Because the game versus the Jets is the next one up. And I don't want to be saying 3 weeks from now, 4 or 5 weeks from now, it's still early in the season. We still can play some football. We'll see if I say that in future videos, but hopefully I won't need to because we'll be ready. So, go Bills. And remember, God loves you. And so do I.